Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. Now we're going 3 years later. Ah. The muted murmur of a television echoes through the spacious room. There's no other sound to be heard. Half submerged in a plush sofa, I abruptly open my eyes at the sound of a voice on the television. It's a very familiar voice, one I've been hearing on a daily basis for a long time now. Must have nodded off halfway through. I move my eyes back to the enormous LCD screen mounted on the wall. Yumiko, wearing a tailored professional suit and a resolute expression, listens carefully to her interviewer's question and offers a precise response. That was a pretty nostalgic dream just now. Maybe it's because I spoke with Amani on the phone the other day, but I dreamed of our time at Miyama Academy. I find my mind running back over the events that turned Yumiko into the public figure she is today. When Sakaki Michiaki transferred all of his stock in the East Beach Group to her, Yumiko thought long and hard about what to do with it all. She even considered selling the entire stake and donating the proceeds to charity. It was, in some sense, tainted money, and more importantly, slightly less than 10% of that company still amounted to an astronomical sum of money. Yumiko wanted to live a peaceful life on her own terms, and she knew that kind of money would change everything. But after much agonizing, she ultimately decided to accept it. And then, while using her newfound wealth to attend a top-flight university, she started up her own company, one that's proven wildly successful. Right now, it's becoming increasingly frequent for her to appear in the media as an exemplary young entrepreneur. Asked why Yumiko voluntarily entered the same corporate world that tied her down for so long, I've never asked her point blank. But I do have the feeling it's got something to do with the open wounds she's been ignoring for the last 3 years. Probably the same reason she didn't sell off this house. Despite all the bad memories it must hold for her, we're living here together now. I guess there comes a point when avoidance doesn't make your scars ache any less. My other cell phone begins to ring for the first time in 3 years. After carefully confirming the name on the caller ID screen, I hit the answer button. Hey, been a while. There's a moment of silence, but in that time, many unspoken words pass between us. Although I was officially reprimanded after the incident 3 years ago, a certain influential force in Ichigaya's upper echelons shielded me from more serious charges and arranged for my reinstatement on the reserve. That said, I was no longer interested in returning to my previous workplace, as supporting Yumiko had become my first and foremost priority. I took my chance to formally resign. Naturally, this led to an estrangement from JB. There was one and only one thing I'd asked of her at the end. It was a job better suited to a detective agency than a professional of her caliber, but I asked anyway, fully aware of my selfishness. JB accepted that strange request without particular comment. I didn't ask why, but it felt as though she wanted to tie up that same loose end herself. 3年前に頼まれてた最後のお願いについて分かったことがあるわ。I already knew the reason she was making this phone call. It has to mean she's found some sort of answer to that odd request I made of her. There's no longer any other reason for JB to contact me. I see. Thank you, Julia. It's alright. I still want to know. I mechanically jot down JB's indifferent words in a notepad that was lying nearby. As the trees outside sway in the wind, a muted sound of rustling foliage carries through the otherwise silent room. After ending the call with JB, I tuck the black cell phone away and take out the one I normally use. The call's history filled almost entirely with a single number. Clicking on it, I bring the phone to my ear. Yumiko and I walk leisurely down the road leading to the station. She's got a lot on her plate at work right now, but the moment I called, she managed to open her schedule. Yeah, there's something I wanted to talk about. Sorry about dragging you out.
Yuujiとこうやって出かけること自体が久しぶりだし、全く構わないのよ。
Yumiko smiles happily. I haven't told her the real reason for this outing yet. That was a deliberate decision. I didn't want it to be weighing on her mind from the very start.
今日はどこに行くの?
It's a slightly far off place, actually.
え? にしてはすごく軽装で出てきたけど。
True, now that you mention it. Yumiko glances over at me with a puzzled expression. This vague, riddle-like conversation continues as we climb the stairs to our local train station. Changing trains after a few stops, we make our way out of central Tokyo and head for the south part of the Kanto region. Colorful port cities flash by outside the windows. Eventually, these give way to peaceful-looking valley towns. As vivid shades of green start to dominate the scenery, Yumiko grows progressively quieter. The train's heading straight for that place. We wouldn't be going there without a good reason. Yumiko's no doubt starting to realize this won't be the lighthearted outing she'd expected. Our destination lies in the town where Yumiko spent the loneliest years of her childhood. By the time we're standing before the building itself, her expression is painfully tense.
Yuuji, どういうことなの?
It's a large general hospital at the outskirts of a sleepy country town. A hospital the two of us visited several times together. But there should no longer be any reason for us to come here.
もうお母さんもいないのに。
Yumiko's mother, Sakaki Misako, quietly passed away 2 years ago. After the usual formalities with her relatives, Yumiko told me she'd never be setting foot in this town again. There were too many sad memories in this place. Just being here was painful for her. I know it's hard coming back here, but there's something we can't talk about anywhere else.
ここでないとできない話?
Yeah. We proceed slowly through the familiar hallways. After climbing the stairs, we make our way toward a private room in the very back, then come to a halt in front of the door. There's a certain person who's been visiting this place virtually every week since your mother's death.
ここへ?
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? Yumiko casts her eyes down, pursing her robe slightly. Looks as though a name's come to mind. I don't know why any more than you do, but it's a fact. That person's been coming here for years and begging the hospital staff not to breathe a word of those visits to anyone.
私たちに知られたくないから.
I silently nod. I know it'd be tough for you to meet him face to face all of a sudden, Yumiko. I'm planning to go in there and ask why he's doing this. Do you think you could wait outside and listen? We can head back home now if that's what you want. I'll promise you never to bring that person up again. But if there's still a bad taste lingering in your mouth, instead of trying to forget the past, how about we look for a way to accept it? Her eyes still turned down toward the floor, Yumiko mutters quietly.
ユージはもうずっと前に気づいていたのね。私があのことをまだ引きずっていることに。
Yeah, sorry for not saying anything until now.
ううん、いいの。
There must be countless memories running through Yumiko's head right now. Her empty childhood, the faint hope she found, only to have it snatched away. The man who took everything away, her crushing solitude, the artificial cage where her heart slowly began to thaw. Her first act of real resistance, our escape, at the end of a long struggle. A confrontation with everything on the line, and the former usurper who had everything taken away from him. What does his daughter feel for him now? Hatred? Something else entirely? I can practically see the tangled ball of conflicted emotions whirling inside her mind. Eventually, Yumiko raises her head, her expressions firm and determined.
私聞くわ。ここで待ってる。
I see. Alright then. Nodding to Yumiko, I step forward and slowly open the door to the hospital room. With the heavy sound of wood sliding across the floor, sunshine from the far window floods out into the hallway. I'm coming in. It's a hospital room with no occupant, dominated by an empty bed. The strong smell of the sun-faded old curtains overpowers the lingering scent of disinfectant still lingering in the air. At the side of the bed, a single man sitting in a folding chair, hands folded in front of him. It's lingering and still lingering.
予定通りだな。さすがは軍人だけあって時間に正確だ。
Well, I'm not in that line of work anymore, but time passes quickly. Best to use it efficiently, wouldn't you say?
その通りだ。時間はすぐに過ぎる。
Sakaki Michiaki smiles stiffly as the words leave his mouth. His face, carved with wrinkles, looks like that of a much older man.
3年ぶりか。もっとも君の顔などあまり覚えてはいないがね。
I remember yours very clearly. Seems to have changed pretty
生きがいの
dramatically.
なくなった人間など所詮はこのようなものだ。血と肉の入れ物はあってもそれを動かす意志が空っぽではただ細々と物を食い排泄するだけのゴミでしかない。
His eyes, once gleaming with ravenous ambition, are dull and sunken. His mouth droops slightly, as if his face can no longer support its own weight. There's not even a hint of the power and intensity that once defined this man. The last 3 years must have been a period of increasingly rapid decline. Sorrow seems to ooze from every pore of his body.
そんな私をここに呼んで何をしようというんだね。
Michiaki's voice, full of self-ridicule, implies a question. Here to laugh at a fallen man. I wanted to ask you something. What was driving you 3 years ago? No, what drove you for your entire adult life? Where did that ambition and greed come from? I couldn't help feeling you were lost somehow, that you might even have regretted the path you took, and that's why I've dragged you out here, so I can stick my nose into your business. Into your business. Michiaki responds to this with a snort of amusement.
こんな非道な男にそんなことを聞いても無駄だろう。君の期待するような言葉など私から全てを奪った贖罪のつもりでそんな自己弁護を考えたのかもしれんがシナリオとしては三流だな。出直してくるがいい。
Tell me then, why have you been retracing the footsteps of your wife and child?
どうしてそれを。
I had my superior do a little digging. You've been sighted in the vicinity of this hospital, the apartments Yumiko and I rented while we were on the run, and even your wife's family home. My final request of JB was an investigation into Sakaki Michiaki's current whereabouts and activities since his fall from power. Michiaki spent the last few years visiting every place his wife and daughter once lived, as if to vicariously experience their journey. vicariously. Yeah. And he did his best to keep us in the dark about it, even disguising himself and using false names. Only a person who regrets their past would do something like that. If you'd really thrown everything aside, you wouldn't go out of your way to visit places with a connection to your family. That's why I finally decided to ask. Was that life really what you wanted, or were you just chained to it by something beyond your control? Had a feeling knowing the answer might be better than letting it all fade away miserably into the past. Michiaki heaves a heavy sigh. His sunken eyes gaze at the floor for a long moment before slowly turning up to me. There's a surprisingly gentle smile on his face. It's the resigned expression of a beaten man.
君の上司は最後まで私の気に入らないことをするのだな。
Blame me for this one. I'm the one who asked her.
妙なことをするものだ。おせっかいにも程があるぞ。
Michiaki, who had been leaning forward in his chair like a stooped old man, abruptly reclines as if to stretch his back. His face pointed at the ceiling, he lets out a very long sigh.
私が父から最初に帝王学を教わったのは9歳だよ。遊びたい盛りの子供に、あの人はいきなり社会と金の話をしてきたんだ。
Throughout Michiaki's childhood, there was a constantly rotating cast of women at his father Kojiro's side. The women came and went, one after the other, each calling herself his mother, offering him various forms of distorted love. Some were affectionate to him in the shallow way of a child playing with a favorite toy. Others were openly hostile, even abusive. But however they treated him, his father showed no interest whatsoever. On the other hand, Sakaki Kojiro was abnormally intrusive when it came to his son's studies and friendships. Perhaps it was because he had once failed the Tokyo Imperial University examination himself, but he demanded superlative academic results from Michiaki, insisting he would tolerate nothing less than admission to a renowned national university. Any friends his son made at school were thoroughly investigated by detective agencies. He had a pretty bad upbringing too. When Michiaki failed to produce superb results or showed the slightest signs of disobedience, his father would respond with violence.
家が怖かった。学校から戻ることが苦痛で仕方なかった。
Desperate to escape his terror, Michiaki threw himself into his studies, ultimately passing the entrance exam for the nation's most prestigious university. This success extended to his personal life, as he obediently acquainted himself with the gaudiest tiers of high society. The more Michiaki met his expectations, the more his father came to demand from him.
大学に入った頃だったか。あの人は私に言ったのだよ。
Michiaki's voice trembles slightly, as if afraid even to revisit the memory of his father. It takes some time before the next words emerge from his mouth.
お前の自我などいらない。俺の人形になって、俺の死後も働けとね。
University didn't bring the freedom Michiaki had hoped for. Every step he took was decided by his father. Under constant observation, he lived as nothing more than an extension of another man's will.
そして、私の自我の一切がついえ、完全な人形となるのを見計らったかのように、あの人は亡くなったんだ。
Michiaki turns his eyes toward the window.
それからのことは、君も何かで聞いているだろう。 後に残されたのは、あの人と同じことをしていれば波動を進めると思っていた。だからユミコの行動が何一つとして理解できなかった。
That's why you followed in her footsteps after losing everything. With yet another bitter smile, Michiaki slowly nods.
そんなことをしてどうなるわけでもないんだがな。ただ 何かあるのかもしれないとすがるようにして同じ道をたどろうと
Did
し
you
た。
find anything? He shakes his head.
何もなかったよ。話をしようにも妻も娘ももうどこにもいなかった。ただ何より恐ろしかったのは、そんな情わかるかね。幼い頃から他人はクズだゴミだと教え込まれ、女は道具だと言われ続けてきた人間が今更になって家族の愛だの情だの理解できるわけがないのだよ。
Once again, Michiaki's gaze turns toward the ceiling. He's not shedding tears, but he's wearing the expression of a crying man. The expression of a man painstakingly forcing his face to take on the contours of sorrow.
私は悔いることすらできないんだ。
When you've known right, it's easy enough to see wrong for what it is. But when all you've known is violence and cruelty and misery, they're simply facts of your existence. By looking at the situation outside, you can understand that you've fallen to the very bottom, and yet the grief and remorse just won't come. There's no emptier feeling. Sakaki Michiaki is mired in the depths of an extraordinary despair. No matter how he moves, no matter what he says, the smothering darkness all around doesn't so much as stir. He's sunk into an inescapable hell. It's the polar opposite of his daughter's suffering. Where Yumiko felt pain, this man knows only crushing numbness. Might be hard to swallow coming from a brat like me, but I can sort of understand your feelings.
なんだと。
There was a time when I couldn't even grieve for the things I'd lost. I tell Sakaki Michiaki just a little about my own past. About my misery, and my one small glimmer of hope, about the emptiness I felt when even that was snatched away from me. About the despair I endured again and again, until my heart grew numb, until I couldn't even recognize it as despair. Wouldn't say I've completely recovered even now, but little by little I've started to experience those feelings again. Do you know why?
さあ、私にはわからない。
It's because of Yumiko. Having her in my life helped me regain something like normal human emotions. By protecting another human being, by sharing my life with them, I gained something in return. The impenetrable darkness inside of me was punctured with a few small rays of light. But if I hadn't met Yumiko, there's no doubt I'd still be wallowing in the same despair as this man. I need to be on my way, but tell me something first. What are you planning to do from now on?
これから何も考えてはいない。私には何もないからな。
Alright, in that case, I'm going to make a request of you. Do whatever you want with the time you've got left, but don't give up on living.
どうしてそんなことを望むんだ。
Staring straight into Michiaki's eyes, I continue in a forceful tone of voice. Don't take anything else away from Yumiko. Whatever you think of yourself, she still sees you as her father. Goodbye. Those final words seem to have an effect on Michiaki. I've already turned my back and taken a few steps when I hear him rising to his feet.
ユミコ、
When I turn around, Michiaki's looking at me with the expression of a man who's just reached a firm conclusion.
ユミコ、幸せに。私のようにはしないでやってくれ。人間として幸せに最後の、私の最後の頼みだ。頼む。
This isn't the hollow musk of a man I was speaking to a moment ago. It's not the broken puppet who told me he was nothing. At the end, Sakaki Michiaki stands before me as a father. Don't think I can accept that request.
なぜだ。
because someday you'll have to help make Yumiko happy as well. But when I speak those words, the light fades from his eyes.
ユミコがそれを望むはずがないだろう。今ここにあの子の母も、そして父もいないのも、すべてはこのくだらない人形のせいなのに。
And Yumiko's a woman who can grieve for a puppet. Weren't you listening? She dragged me up out of that same muck you're sinking in.
本当か。
Yes, I wouldn't even be standing in this room otherwise. Yumiko's lingering unhappiness wasn't a product of bitterness, much less a desire for revenge. It was something else entirely. And that's why I came here, to show them a path toward accepting the past. That's not going to be your final request. I'll come see you again. Make sure you stick around until then. Turning around once more, I head for the door. This time, there's no call from behind. Yumiko? Yumiko's not standing in the hallway where I left her. But it doesn't take long for me to realize where she's gone. The weather's nice today. She has to be there. A powerful wind gusts across the rooftop. Sandwiched between the vivid blue sky and dull gray concrete, a small white thing flutters in the breeze. A slender milepost, marking the spot where it all began and the spot where it's going to end. Her white skirt and long black hair dance in the air as I slowly approach. Wrapping my arms around that slim body from behind, I embrace it tightly. Yumiko must have realized I was approaching. Without flinching or turning around, she reaches up to grasp at my hand. Shoulders trembling softly, she lets her tears spill freely down onto my arm.
Yuuji, ありがとう。本当に。
Affectionately stroking my hand, Yumiko thanks me again and again. The wind gusts strongly past us, but we accept it head on, steady as a deeply rooted tree.
ユウジにお願いがあるの。聞いてくれるかしら。
Yeah, shoot.
私、父に教えて、ユウジに教えてもらったように、父がそこにちゃんといるんだってことを
She chokes up repeatedly as the words
教
leave
え
her
てあ
mouth,
げたい。
and yet her voice seems strong and firm. It's going to take a while, you know? Sakaki Michiaki is many, many empty years behind him. Filling that massive void won't be a small project, or an easy one.
平気よ。だって私は一人じゃないもの。
Her hands squeeze fiercely down on mine.
大丈夫。
I nod and squeeze back. The words I spoke to Michiaki were my honest feelings. It's only because of Yumiko that I'm here today. I owe her everything. Alright, let's teach him together. With that, Yumiko falls silent once more. Grasping my hand, she gazes up into the sky and lets the wind break against her body. Beautiful summer clouds drift by far overhead. The sky Yumiko watched before was always a lonely place. The vault of blue was a symbol of nothingness, a reflection of the emptiness below. But right now, I think she's seeing something very different up there.
Hi, 失礼します。例の件の報告？はい、そうです。いいわよ。報告してちょうだい。東浜電鉄に絡む敵対勢力の排除ですが、筆頭であったカルマ陸将補の急逝により、その勢力は次第に弱まっています。一部の組織暴力が 旧来の組織と手を組んで資金集めをしているという情報もありますが、取るに足らないものかと思われます。
榊道明のその後は？
精神的にかなりの疲弊が見られましたが、現在は娘の榊由美子の支援により回復傾向にあるとのことです。以前のような暴挙には至らないと見て間違いないでしょう。
彼も国益を損ねるようなところまで手を広げずに抱えきれる程度にしておけばよかったのよ。目をつけられちゃいけないところにバレた以上見過ごすわけにはいかなかったわ。
外事経由の情報では陸将補が内通していたとされる外国人の女も処理されたそうです。
門間陸将補もバカなことをしたわね。そのままおとなしくしておけば議員にだってなれたのに、年がいもなくやってきた春に浮かれて欲をかいたせいで病死することになったわけだから。
門間陸将補の後継ですが、内田一佐の昇格が決まりました。
あの人畜無害のおじさんなら無難に務めるでしょう。適当な中間のポジションには首振ってハンコつくだけの人間がいればそれでいいわ。それにこの職場に関して言えば野心など一切ない方がいい。
全ては上層部の思惑通りというわけですか。
そうね。何もかもが最初から最後まで手のひらの上だった。実際に榊道明に対峙した彼らも私たちもね。
9029残念ですね。結局ここも辞めちゃいましたし。
まあ仕方ないわよ。もう子供も生まれたわけだし、そうそう無茶もできなくなる潮時だったのよ。何よ、私の顔をじっと見て。
寂しそうですね、先輩。
余計な詮索をしないでちょうだい。キアラ、コーヒー入れて。
はい、わかりました。以上で報告を終わります。
さようなら、ユージ。
5 years later. Oh, 5 years after the 3 years later, or 5 years total later. Pulled along by a small hand, I walk down a gently curving road at the side of a familiar river. I have to bend over a little to match the height of my companion. Moving at an awkward trot, I do my best to keep up.
パパ遅いよ。もっと早く。
Maybe you could slow down instead, Yuma?
早くしないとお日様なくなっちゃうよ。
My entreaty, delivered with a lopsided half-smile, is shot down instantly. As Yuma hauls me forward with renewed vigor, I hear a quiet giggle from behind us. Look, Yumiko, can you stop laughing and say something to the kid? Ignoring this request entirely, Yumiko smiles over at us. One of her hands is occupied with a picnic basket, the other with a bag full of painting materials. She watches her husband and only daughter run noisily along with an expression of profound contentment on her face.
着いた。ほらパパ座って。ママはここ。
With practiced movements, Yuma brushes away a little dirt, then guides us to our seats on the grass. The instant Yumiko settled herself onto the ground, Yuma slips in between her legs and onto her lap. Why don't you sit with me every once in a while, Yuma?
やだ。パパのお膝の上硬いんだもん。
Kicking her stubby legs in the air, Yuma turns her face away in rejection. Yumiko, of course, just watches and laughs. Typical.
ママ、お絵かきしよう。お絵かき。
Looking back at her mother, Yuma makes her usual demands. Yumiko nods and retrieves a sketchbook from her bag. Oh. Coming here has become part of our normal routine. It's always the three of us, Yumiko, me, and our only child, Pretty much every weekend, we're here performing a happy family number sweet enough that it'd likely nauseate any unfortunate observers.
ほら、ちゃんと持ちなさい。こないだみたいに汚しちゃうわよ。
Yumiko reaches down and makes Yuma shift the marker in her hand to a more normal grip. Last week, the budding artist in question ended up defacing one of her favorite classes as a result of that sloppy marker technique. With this energetic response, Yuma immediately switches back to her bizarre initial grip.
もう、言ったそばからね。
Smiling wryly, Yumiko takes our daughter's small hand in hers and shifts the marker again. Hard to believe it's the same hand that once came flying at my face in unthinking rejection.
お父さんも、やっと退院ね。
Sounds like all the tests were good. I'm glad. Yumiko nods brightly. Just the other day, the doctor in charge of Michiaki's case granted approval for a discharge from the hospital. Yumiko's years of steady, determined effort have finally been rewarded.
おじいちゃん退院するの？
Yeah, good thing we had you around, Yuma.
どうして？
In response to this innocent question, I just shook her head. Yuma's cheerfulness provided more than enough warmth to thaw Michiaki's heart. These days, he's smiling like a good-natured old man every time his granddaughter walks into the room.
今度は、一緒に連れてきたいわね。
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yuma, losing interest in the conversation, scribbles passionately away at her sketchbook. Gripping the marker firmly in her fist, she piles vaguely circular shapes onto each other, seemingly at random. Looking up at me, she grins from ear to ear and points at the sketchbook.
Papa!
A mishmash of shapes that might barely qualify as something like a face stares up at me from the sheet of paper. Sorry, Yumiko. Seems Yuma might have taken after me instead of you on this front. Unable to find appropriate words of praise, I let out a fatherly sigh.
まだわからないわよ。これから上手くなるかもしれないのに。ね、ユマ？
これパパに似てるよ。
We've got to do something about her sense of aesthetics at least. As I heave another long sigh, my wife and daughter cackle at me. And when her laughter dies down, Yumiko mumbles a few words to herself.
こんな日が来るなんて。本当によかった。
Stroking Yuma's head gently, she continues with 3 earnest words.
ありがとう、ユージ。
Once, there was only emptiness inside her. Yumiko rejected everything, avoided all communication, cut off the lines tying her to the world. Eventually, the passage of time softened her. Slowly, almost against her will, she began to form new connections. But at first, those bonds inspired only denial and guilt. Today, she's full to the brim with heartfelt gratitude. It flows out of her as naturally as she breathes. Every thank you is nothing less than proof that Yumiko's embraced this world with open arms, that she's actively chosen to live in it. That's my line. Thank you, Yumiko. After a long and painstaking search, we found happiness. Of course, it's a fragile thing with no constant form. We still have our struggles and our doubts. But it's not just the two of us anymore. There's something else for us to protect, someone else to protect us both. The future we couldn't begin to imagine is slowly revealing its shape.
今度はママを描くね。
どんな顔になるのかな？
The warm, late spring wind blows gently by us. As the leaves rustle softly in the distance, Yuma's musical voice flies off toward the ocean. And in the sky we've drawn together, there's not a single speck of cloud.
所にずっといた。誰も知らないならこのままでいい、そう思っていたよ。胸の中閉じ込めたキャンバスにねえ失った未来さえ描いてくれたね。空のように澄んだ心を持ったまま一緒に行こう。灰色の街、一人歩いてた。光だけを目指しさまようようにあなたを探してた。何よりも大切にしたいからね。過ぎ去った時間にも優しくなれるね。雲のような白い心へ毎日を綴ってゆこう。空のように澄んだ心を持ったまま一緒に行こう。
She had a very hard life growing up.
グリザイアの
Oh
果実。
god. Okay, that's all 5 routes. Those were very interesting characters. I enjoyed all their stories. Wow, they are very, very well written. Have a lot of story to them. This is a very well put together visual novel. I enjoyed it. Bye!